Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. It's all about perspective, the way we look at things. And if you look at things in a different way, it could be a game changer and potentially move your life forward or make a major difference in your life. We're going to look at that today. And she offers a lot of perspective in terms of what she does, her passion, her purpose in helping people move their lives forward. She has founded a wonderful mental health center in Massachusetts, New Beginnings, and it's so great to have her back with us. Our Diamond of the Decade, Sherri Alexandrovich, is with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you today?
Good. I'm really loving digging into this because one minute you could feel one way and change your perspective, and it could be radically different than literally the next 2 seconds later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so perspective is something that we talk a lot about, not just in therapy. We've talked about it several times here on the podcast as well. Just the importance and the power of words in itself are so impactful, but how we deliver those words can also be really impactful. And I had gone to a seminar last Thursday night in Connecticut, and I had spoke a few weeks ago about Matt Griffin, who is the author of The Journey to Midnight. And his story was so incredibly powerful. And I had the honor of going in, seeing him in person last Thursday night. And part of what he did in his seminar was he had read this poem, and it's a reverse poem. And so you read it the first way from the top down, and then you go back and you read it from the bottom up. And it really just kind of brought full circle the whole idea of perspective taking. So I printed it, and I thought that might be a nice thing to just kind of open with, if that's okay.
Absolutely. And I think I know somewhat of what we're talking about here. I've seen memes, I've seen posts where you read it one way, it's got one meaning, you read it another way, like the bottom up, and it has a completely different look to it.
Right, absolutely. Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay, so today was the absolute worst day ever. And don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day, because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, some satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be attained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true good exists. I'm sure you can agree that the reality created my attitude. It's all beyond my control, and you'll never in a million years hear me say, today was a very good day.
Ouch.
Okay, so today was a very good day, and you'll never in a million years hear me say it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be attained because it's all in the mind and heart, and it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if this world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day. And don't try and convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever.
So you read that how?
So I read the first one was from the top down, and that was the negative perspective. And then I reversed it and I read it from the bottom up. And it completely just changed the perspective and the meaning of the poem. And so I thought that for me resonated pretty deep, because it just really shows the power of words, and how we perceive something is similar to the things that we're saying and hearing. And with the holidays coming up, and I feel like, right now has just been a really difficult time financially for a lot of people. The country as a whole is going through a lot of struggles. And I thought maybe today we could just talk about how do we change some perspectives, and how do we look at things from more positive ways and outcomes.
It's It's the language we use.
Yeah. Mhm.
Even when you say, I'm trying to be more positive, I'm trying to be more positive, you're telling your subconscious, try. Doesn't mean you're succeeding.
Mhm.
And it comes from a good place, the word try,
Right.
but change that word to I am being more positive.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's really just the messages that we're giving ourselves and how those resonate. And last week, or the week before, we had talked about resiliency and what does that look like. And kind of one of the pieces of advice that I had given on resiliency was to say or acknowledge three things every day, three events or three things in our life that we're grateful or appreciative of. And that statistically, that has shown that that certainly increases people's positive perspectives and decreases the depression. And this all kind of ties together really nicely in terms of it's really just not just the messages that we give ourselves, but the messages that we believe internally and how important that is. You know, everybody's going to have a bad day. We're all going to have things that happen to us, and allowing ourselves to have that moment. But then we have to take a breath and kind of like exhale out that negativity and be able to put it in a different perspective and be able to have that forward movement. And that's the way that we don't stay stuck. And that's really what we need to be doing is just always having that forward movement, always having that perspective of I have this or these things, this too shall pass. And all those kind of little cliche sayings that you and I kind of laugh about each week, right? That we mirror or hear ourselves talking from our parents' perspective in the past, but how true are they? Just changing one or two words within a sentence, how impactful that can be.
Mm. What do you say to somebody that's watching this or listening to it
Mhm.
and they say, well, guys, Sherry, Steve, you don't have any idea what's going on. I'm going through this now. Yeah, I'm going through that. Life is not roses, sunshine, butterflies, lollipops, and unicorns. You guys don't get it.
So I would say you're right. Life isn't roses and sunshine and unicorns. And we have the opportunity to reframe that and do something different. I think if we add that language of and, that word's my favorite word in the whole world, because we can hold two emotions at the same time. We can be upset and angry about something, and we can be grateful that we have the opportunity to do something different. So when we add the word and, it gives us that flexibility so that we're not just looking at one perspective, we're adding in alternative perspectives. Because if this person is saying this, they're right. Life is not always great. And you're right. I don't know what you're going through, and neither does Steve. We have no idea the enormity of pain or trauma or loss that other people are experiencing. Nobody has any insight into that. And we also have the opportunity to reach out to support systems and be able to work through that. And it really just starts with how are we perceiving it? Are we internally feeling like we have the opportunity to be able to effectuate change? How do we go about doing that? That was a big focus of one of my sessions this morning with a client who was able to identify that she is perpetually setting herself up for failure before the failure happens.
Mm.
And so after about a half an hour of just some cognitive restructuring and some sequencing, we were able to really see that, oh, this particular situation really isn't as bad as I thought it was. What's really going on is I'm setting myself up to kind of get that exit plan before they tell me that I can no longer work here. And so as we kind of walked through that, we were able to see where she's just setting herself up for that. And how can we look at that a little bit differently? How can we get to that perspective of, I do deserve to have this and give myself some grace for what I have learned or the successes that I have achieved. And then we build upon those.
Well, this person that you referred to, you said continually sets himself up for failure before they even failed. Doesn't mean they were going to fail.
Correct.
What if we flip that around and set ourselves up for success every time?
Absolutely. 3000%. Love that. 3000%. Yes. Part of what I teach every day, and I really try to use for myself as well, is these stepping stones. So we take our successes and then we build upon them. And then we have a really good point of reference to look back on. Today we achieved whatever our milestone was for today. And then tomorrow, when we go to check off tomorrow's to-do list or tomorrow's task lists, and if we're feeling anxious or overwhelmed by that, take a breath, take that pause, allow ourselves that moment of feeling the anxiety or the turmoil or the angst inside, breathe through it, and then remember that yesterday we accomplished or succeeded something far bigger than what we're up against today.
Have you found that once you start the practice of this, looking at things in a more positive way, but being realistic, not, the unicorn thing, that it's easier for you to reframe things? We all are going to get negative. It's going to be, down moments. You're going to have those thoughts. But once you start getting in the practice of flipping it around, the perspective, that
Yes,
it gets easier to turn it
absolutely.
around.
And I can tell you from experience, and this is kind of part of what I will explain to my clients, is way back, I would say, oh, I don't know, maybe about 20 years ago, I started practicing this reframing. I started practicing how do I look at things from a different, more positive outlook. And I give the example that, there were one day way back when I was first starting out in my career, I was doing home-based therapy. So I was driving around to, different people's houses, and we had a storm in the garage. We had lost power. And yes, I do know, disclaimer, I do know now that you can open your garage door without power. I did at the time not know that. So just put that out there. So I get up, there's no electricity. I have a well, there's no power. Okay, but at least I have enough water that I can brush my teeth, put my hair in a ponytail, get dressed. Then I go downstairs, I can't open my garage door. But at least my daughter, who was a teenager at the time, her car's outside. So I'm able to take that car. I'm driving down the road, we're almost out of gas. Typical teenager. But at least I have cash in my pocket to be able to go to a gas station. At the end of the day, I was able to effectively go and see all of my clients versus waking up and saying, there's no power, I can't get to my clients, I don't have access to a vehicle, and canceling a whole day's worth of sessions. So it's really just about the messages that we give ourselves every minute. That but at least, I use that all the time. For every negative that we have or experience that we have, we can find something positive to sprinkle in there and give ourselves that motivation for that forward movement.
Mhm. And even if it's the most minor positive thing, if you will,
Mhm.
that's still okay
Of course.
because it's you're planting a little seed
Yes.
that can grow into a big one. And I'm kind of chuckling at the power thing because in the last month I was at a hotel and I was trying to get a little later checkout because I had a later flight. And I said, yeah, can you do anything? And they said, well, we'll give you another hour or so. I'm like, that's great. She goes, if it's longer, we got to charge you like $80. I'm like, really don't want to pay. So we're all good with that.
Right.
Go back to my room, packing, getting things ready and everything. Lost power in the room.
Wow. Oh
Well,
no.
what am I going to do now? Like, so I was like, well, wait, can't take a shower. So I went back to the front desk. You had a little problem that like no power in my room. I don't know if it's in the wing or whatever it might be. Can you extend, the the late checkout? And they did by another few hours because of it. So I could have looked as, look at the late, the power. I can't even do anything here. I can't charge my phone. I can't do this. I can't do that. I was like, oh, this is great. I'm glad I lost power. I can chill more, be on the deck, take in some more sun, relax. Totally flipped it around. I was like, dang, I'm glad. It was almost as if the timing was perfect. Losing power.
Absolutely. And it was all about perspective taking, right? You had shifted your mindset into an opportunity to be able to have a little bit more downtime, not pay the $80 to get out of the garage, and be able to still accomplish what it is that you wanted to. So it's really just about the messages that we give ourselves and that positive perspective on how we're going to move forward. As we continue to change that negative thinking, our brain waves change, the synapses, and we start creating more positive connections within our brain. It becomes easier and easier and easier. Our brain starts to reshape itself. Our perspectives start to reshape themselves. They tell you that 7 days to create a habit, or 7 days to stop a habit, one or the other, right? it's the same thing with our minds. As we're shifting and we're stopping and pausing and changing the narrative of that, that will then become second nature. And for me, I've been practicing this for, over a couple of decades. And now it's just second nature for me to always just try to find whatever that positive perspective is or that positive outlook is, rather than really kind of getting stuck. And absolutely, we have to take a moment to feel that negative emotion. I'm not saying that wake up and not allow ourselves to have that moment. We absolutely need to have that moment, but we
Sure.
can't stay stuck in it. That's the important message that I want everybody to hear is bad things do happen to good people, and good things can happen if you just give yourself that moment and that grace to receive it.
I know somebody that pilots by this. When there's something challenging, you need to just express and dump it. Like, I can't believe this happened today.
Mhm.
You got 5 minutes. So, and a lot of friends do this where they'll dump on the other person, but you only can do it for 5 minutes. So say what
Mhm.
you want. I can't believe blah 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 blah. Like we said, stuff happens. It's real.
Right,
And
right.
and and you purged, and now you're good.
Hmm.
Now reframe it. And you said a word that really resonates: opportunity. Look
Mm.
for the opportunity
Mhm.
in the lesson. There's always a lesson
Oh,
in
yes,
everything, as much as it's hard to say that, but there is.
yes.
Um, but if we look for those things, that might help get us out of the negative mode,
Mhm.
because it's more what's opportunity. That's a positive word, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes it's hard to see what that lesson was,
Oh,
but there always is one. And if we can just take a minute and reflect back on our life's journey, we can find that we've had these wonderful opportunities that came from some pretty negative outcomes that we wouldn't have had we not had that experience. So it's important to really, take note of where our journey has taken us and what has it taught us along the way. And then really hold tight to that, because sometimes, like you were saying about the little seeds that we're planting, sometimes we're given those seeds along the way. And if we don't stop and water them, they just kind of get blown away in the wind. And
hmm.
then sometimes the universe will come back and the universe will give us more seeds that they plant. And if we don't water them, the wind will blow them away. And eventually we will stop and we will water those seeds, and we will be able to benefit from the opportunities that are given to us. If we missed them the first time, the universe is going to give us a second opportunity for that. So it's just always not regretting that we may have missed something along the way, but looking at it from the idea of, that taught me something really valuable. Maybe I wasn't ready to grow that seed right yet. Now I'm ready. So now the seed's going to grow. So it's all
would
about timing.
would you say, Sherry, that the only way to water the seed is water it with positivity?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. There's no water in negativity. There's no water in negativity. That's not going to grow anything. It's going to fester, and it's going to turn to all kinds of awful things. So yes, I would agree that the water is absolute positivity, and it helps us to effectuate change, because what do we want every day, right? We want to be the best versions of ourselves. How do we do that? Sometimes we don't know how to do that. Sometimes we think we're doing that. And that's where it comes to that self-reflection and taking that moment to step back and pause and say, what is going to be good for me today? What am I doing for me today that's going to help me to replenish, so that I can then in turn give to other people?
Hmm. To make this work even better, should we always be mindful of the little wins?
Yes, absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
little things, little tiny glimmers, like, oh, I did that. I did that. Hey, that actually went well. Uh,
Right.
we're always looking at the big picture. I
Yeah.
understand that. But at the same time, we're not looking in terms of the gratitude, those are the things that turned out well.
3,000%. Every day, waking up and being grateful and just appreciating the small things that we have. Money's important. Yes, we need to be able to pay our bills. We need to be able to, you know, buy groceries, support our families, pay for college, et cetera, right? Absolutely. But the free things in life, those are the ones, those are the moments that you have to really kind of stop and pause and really experience with gratitude. I spent a weekend up in Maine with my grandson and Lily, my dog. And the moments that we had just dancing around the kitchen, being silly, starting a fire, watching the movie Elf, the dog running around the yard, and being able to just breathe in the ocean air. Those are things that money can't buy. Those are just the small things in life that help us to be more positive and to replenish. And for me, I go to the ocean. That is just my grounding place. And I will just throw that negativity out into the ocean and allow it to bring back all of the positive waves and just replenish my soul to be able to come back and do the work that we do because it's hard. We have to be able to replenish.
Mm. This is just something, if you live in an area where you have some water, symbolically to release it. I even just like putting the windows down, even if it's winter, put them down a little bit and feeling that breeze come in from the ocean, the water, whatever. Doesn't
Mhm.
even have to be near water, but that, it's cool if you are.
Right.
But it's just that refresh, that moment of refreshing. I can even think back, probably 2017, maybe
Mhm.
18. Drove to the beach, which fortunately for me, it's maybe 10, 12 minutes away. And I had my kayak on top of my old crappy Jeep, which, I love because I don't have to worry about it. It's rusting away. It's great. Pull up there and I was like, I'm going to go kayaking. Yeah. And I was like, I feel kind of tired. I don't know if I have the energy today. You know what? I'm just going to lean back and just take that breeze in and just chill. I did nothing for like an hour and a half. Little bit of stuff on my phone, a little work here and there, but it was just wonderful.
Yeah.
I got so much work done, work wise, but also on myself in that hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I still remember. I'm still talking about it because it
Yeah.
made such an impact in it. And you might look at it on surface and say, "What'd you do? You just drove to the beach and parked." It was way more.
The ocean air, for me, I feel is very healing and very soothing. So
Yeah.
for me, that's always where I go when I need to ground and replenish and rebuild.
Well, it's the salt too. They say salt is cleansing.
Yeah. And I'll take some home and clean my crystals with it and like to kind of,
Yep.
kind of replenish them as well. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think right now is an important time for us all to
Mhm.
really just be kind to ourselves, be kind to
Yep.
other people. We don't know what other people are going through. Be kind to everybody, because you never know what somebody else is experiencing. And that just kind of goes back to, the smiling depression. We never know what someone's going through internally, and always just make sure that we're kind to other people because that one word can make an impact either way in somebody else's.
Even a smile.
Absolutely, for sure. Yes.
I went through the drive-through at Starbucks this morning, and a gentleman came out the back entrance. He worked there. He was emptying the garbage, whatever. Opens the door. We lock eyes, and instantly he was just the biggest smile ever. Like,
Yeah.
and I look back and I smile back at him, and I was like, "Oh my god, what just happened? I'm not used to this." It's like the weirdest thing, but it was so wonderful at the same time.
Well, so human beings mirror. So I took a play therapy course a couple of Fridays ago. I had my staff all go, and a wonderful presenter came from California and happened to be in New England. We were able to secure her for an afternoon.
Hmm.
And she did a whole segment on how humans mirror other humans. And so think about when someone yawns, you without thinking, right? You just yawn.
Yeah.
Someone smiles at you, you smile back. That's how children, infants, babies, that's how they learn to connect to other people. It's all really just in mirroring facial, uh, facial expressions, body language, energy. It all ties into it. So it doesn't just apply to infants and babies and children. It applies across the board, everybody.
But we also emulate the other stuff. If I start complaining about whatever right now, what would you probably do?
Right. You
The
jump
same.
right on that bandwagon. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That I can just imagine.
Yeah.
I was in Boston a couple weekends ago at my granddaughter's cheer competition. And there was a woman who was cutting us off and she's swearing and she's screaming. And, I got the kids in the car and I started laughing. And I said to the kids, I'm like, boy, she just needs a nap. And they just died laughing because they were just like so dysregulated by the chaos that was happening. And they're like, what? I'm like, she just needs a nap. She's cranky because she needs a nap. They were like, it just changed the whole tone of the car, because now they're laughing and they're like, yeah, that's right, she needs a nap. And
Mm.
instead of it being me arguing or yelling or saying, well, there's nowhere for me to go, why are you beeping at me? None of that's irrelevant, right? She's having a bad day. She clearly did need a nap, but there was nothing I was going to do to change that. And so diving into that negativity, that wasn't going to help the situation.
Yeah, it's not going to support anything.
Oh,
We always do this. We start with a word, perspective, and then it turns into a half hour, which is great. And I always wonder, well, how are we going to talk about that? We could keep going. We could keep going. You're there and your team, and just a testament to how dedicated you are in having a speaker come in and facilitate some more understanding and learning. Newbeginningswc.com is your website, right?
yes.
Yeah, and you can work with people virtually anywhere. You're based in Massachusetts. Thank you for the positivity today. I truly appreciate it.
Welcome. You're very welcome. All right,
Well,
we'll see you next week.
you got it. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.